Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Icing on the Career Cake with me, Graham Coath, Diane from DCT Recruitment, and today's special guest, Adrian Waine, who's going to talk to us all about what he does with a camera. Adrian, pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Graham. Thank you. And it's not just the camera; it's all about lighting. I mean, if you just tilt this screen up a little bit, and you can see a few of my photographs at the back. You can see that they're very much ordinary, everyday working subjects, but it's lighting that really brings them to life, really transforming something very ordinary into something striking and dramatic.
That's a very good point, actually, isn't it? We kind of underestimate just how important light is in not only in taking a good photograph of everything, but just in terms of the workplace in general as well. How did you get into photography, sir?
Well, I was lucky in many respects because I was in school when I first had an interest in photography. And around the time I was doing my O-levels, my science teacher taught me how to develop and print. And at the age of about 13, when you start doing that, when it gets under your skin, it really becomes an obsession. And probably by the time I was 14 and a half, 15, I thought, this is just for me. It's one of those things that happened at that age and it's never gone away. And of course, when I went on to college and I learned how to light things and create advertising images, industrial business images, commercial images, that's where you really discover that photography has got a power, the power of the professional image, the striking effect it creates, the emotions, the persuasiveness of it all. And when that starts to sink in and you find that you're able to do that once you've learned about lighting, it really is one of those things that gets under your skin, and it can be an obsession, to be honest with you. A bit like people have with music, they know from an early age, well, they've learned to play something in school. And once you start to know the chords and the notes, so to speak, and you can put it together, and it becomes far, far more familiar to you, you realize that you can certainly do something with it. And it's one of those criteria, really, that's never gone away.
Oh, I love that.
So it's just good. I mean, I get a kick out of creating photographs now in very much the same way as I did 30 years ago.
Yeah,
but I don't do it for pleasure. I only do it for professional purposes.
Well, someone was talking about work-life balance again on LinkedIn earlier today, and I said, I asked the question, what happens if your work is play?
Well, I don't see it as play anymore. It is something that I enjoy. I like going into factories. I like creating great images out of everyday subjects, but I don't see it as play. It comes a lot easier now because I've learned my trade. I've been doing it a long time. I mean, years ago, I used to be staff photographer with the Arabian American Oil Company. So I worked in some of the gigantic petrochemical plants of the Middle East, when it was 46 degrees. Now, that certainly wasn't play. That was bloody hard work. That was really bloody hard work. You'd have sweat running down your face all day long, and then a crust of salt all around here,
Wow.
Because they were arduous conditions. No, to me, that's not play. It's still great to create, striking, persuasive images out of those situations, but it is hard work.
Yeah.
So are you always with the camera when you're with the family?
No, don't do any personal stuff at all. Not at all.
No, I don't.
Yeah, I don't have any interest in it anymore. I mean, I don't take a camera on holiday, but having said that, I'm still aware of things visually. You could be walking down a street in the middle of Dublin and a bus goes past and goes around the corner, and then you suddenly see the as it turns, you see the reflections in the windows, and you might get a spray of light or something, or the different angles as the glass goes past. It's really being visually switched on, and I find that I do that all the time. I don't need a camera to see these things, but I think it's being switched on and recognizing that, because when you go and do a job professionally, it's those kinds of things that you're looking for. I mean, really, my job, which comes down to intuition as well as being a photographer, is to see things that other people don't see. Let's say in a factory, you might have a conveyor line or a packing line or something, and you start off by having a walk round with a client, and you might look at it from very low down. And people have even said to me in the past, "Oh, I would never have thought of doing that." And you think, well, no, because you're looking at it from an operating point of view, or walking around checking things. Why would you look at it from 6 inches above the ground, unless you were looking for a fault? But when you start to be inquisitive like that, you try and see things from a position where other people don't see. And of course, once you start putting light on that, you can really bring something to life.
I was going to say, though, a lot of us try and do those things, like look at angles and whatever when we're taking a photograph. It still turns out dreadfully, because actually we might think, maybe it'd be arty if we do this and lie on the floor, or look up at this angle or whatever, but we don't actually then understand what to do with our equipment, do we?
I think it's a case of a lot of things these days is people look but they don't see. So many people take pictures on a phone these days, and it's just like this. They just don't see. I'm concentrating on picking out a particular aspect or feature of a project. You see this one behind me. This one.
Yep.
This one. That's actually laser engraving of a thing called an can't pronounce it, an Anilox roller, which is used in the printing industry. It's used for printing things like wrappers for biscuits, flexible packaging they call it, and it's just a roller that's sort of grey colour, and it's engraved with millions and millions of little cells which carry the ink onto the rollers. And that's it being engraved. So you actually see the sparks coming off it as it's being engraved. Now the colour is colour I've put on with coloured lighting, which is flash. But the sparks that you see, I mean, that's hot metal where it's flying off. But when we did that, you have to look at the subject for a while, find out what it is that you want to concentrate on, and then get rid of everything else. I mean, we actually took the back of the machine off that, so I could literally have a black background. We put all the lights off, and I actually shot it sort of, at stool level, shooting through the machine, so that we gave it a time exposure to record all the sparks, and then the colour was introduced with coloured flash. So it's honing in on detail and looking at something interesting and think, what can I do with this to make it really dramatic? And that particular picture, I actually had that for a front cover for an airline magazine.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Now, where did the connection come there? Somebody got in touch with me about doing an article on industrial photography for one of the airline magazines. I've forgotten which one it was now. But there was two photographers that they featured. There was myself, and there was another guy who did really quite different work. So we effectively got a profile, 2 or 3 pages on him and 2 or 3 pages on me, and it was just run as an article for the magazine. But it was great to get the front cover, because you imagine you're the passenger on the airplane. You pull the magazine out of the front sleeve in front of you, and you think, oh, this looks interesting. What's this? So it's all a captured market, isn't it, as well? You're not going anywhere when you're on a plane.
Well, the thing is, you've got 200-300 people who are sitting there for a few hours, and you've got to keep them entertained while they're there. And I guess with it being a business flight as well, the people who have the job of putting the magazine together thought, well, what can we include that might be of interest to some of the passengers? and they picked up on industrial photography. And it's a little bit unusual, you know, it's a slightly different subject. It's not something that you come across every day.
Do you find yourself being a bit of a geek in terms of other people's businesses, Adrian? Because it sounds like you get quite a kick out of finding out about how someone's business works.
Yeah, I like industry. You know, the TV program with Greg Wallace, Inside the Factory. I think that's a great program, that is. And you know how he gets all excited and kind of dances around when he finds something out. I do feel a little bit like that at times, because when you go around an unusual factory, you know, a factory that, let's say, makes polythene or makes paint, you see something that you may never have seen it before, and you think, cool, is that how it's done? Isn't that great? I would never have in a million years thought that was how it was done.
You know what? That's what I like coming into recruitment is obviously being in the world of McDonald's. I didn't know half the jobs in the world exist. So
yeah,
that's one of the reasons I always want to go to the establishments and see how it is and how it's done, because what you think it's going to be and what it really is can be very different at times.
Sometimes for the good, sometimes for the better, sometimes not as well.
Well, you know, in many cases,
but I agree. Like it is intriguing when you go.
Well, it is. I mean, you don't know what you don't know about, and see a subject for the first time. It's a learning process.
Did you see the one that was based down the road from where I am now? The one at Pneumatic in Chard? The people that make the Henry Hoovers? That was.
I did. Yes. Yeah. Oh, you're in Chard, are you?
Yeah.
I've done a job in Chard. That's a long way away from here. That's Somerset, isn't it?
That is indeed, yes.
Yeah, the Henry Hoovers. Yeah, I did see that. Yeah. I hope all your village were glued to the telly that night.
Well, it's a town, and yes, they were, because they're probably the biggest employer in the town, and they're expanding again at the moment.
Good. Well, you know, it's a good news story, isn't it? And I think a lot of us get a buzz about a good news story, particularly when it's your town, and you think, well, we're all going to benefit from this.
Now, come on, as a bit of fun, I just want to ask a couple of questions, which you know, we can go around the whole group. First one is first camera that everybody had.
Kodak Instamatic, the number 92 that took 110 film. So you had a little black cartridge.
He knows all the detail. Look, you see.
Oh well, I would have been 11 actually when I got that. And of course, you don't get film in a little cartridge anymore, do you? That's even if you hunt around, you won't find that in W.H. Smith's these days.
No. Diane, can you remember your first camera?
Probably a throwaway one that you bought in the shop, or one that my dad didn't want anymore because he's into photography and technology. So he probably gave me something he didn't want anymore, to be honest.
I think. Can you still buy those disposable cameras?
Yes, you can. Yeah.
I mean, absolutely ideal for a holiday. You know, particularly when it might end up in the swimming pool, and you think, well, haven't got a camera to take. Let's buy one. Let's take it, or two. You know, and I don't know how many. I don't even know how many frames they took. I've never had one. But
I think they're mainly sold for things like weddings. Still, aren't they?
Great idea. Yeah. Great. Yeah. Well, yeah, you could put a camera on every table, couldn't you, and let the guests just to take a few photographs of whatever they like. I think that's a good idea.
Well, although the thing is that you then nowadays have to give everyone instruction. Once upon a time, everyone would know how to use that, but now it's like people will just be stood there doing this, expecting the picture to suddenly appear at the back.
Everybody's first camera now is their phone, isn't it? So
exactly. I believe my first camera was an ITT, and it was a little long camera about this size with the push-in cartridge at the back.
Yeah.
I think it cost about £9.99 or something like that.
And then you took your film to Boots or Max Spielman for
Or
process.
True Print.
Or True Print, yeah. Or
Yeah.
Bonus Print.
Oh,
Yeah.
There
Few
we
of them.
go.
And we always used to pick those paper envelopes up in various places so you could post it along with your money.
That's right. I think we
Came
used to
back
go to the post office at the weekend, and they would have a rack with the True Print envelopes in, and we, you know,
there was a real thrill in that, you know, when your pictures came back.
well, a thrill, but also maybe a disappointment when like it hadn't gone right and the film had got stuck and you got like a half exposed or a black photo in there.
I had a lot of those in my early days, and you know, in the early days when I hadn't learnt my trade, you know, in all fairness, I was 10, 11, 12. You don't know things you don't know. You know, well, why is this frame all black? Why is it doesn't it look very good? You know, underexposure. You learnt these over the years to come.
Now, the second question was, in the day and age where everybody's taking photos because we've all got phones, still a lot of people don't necessarily like having their photo taken. I was just going to ask around the group, do you like having your photo taken, Adrian, or you dislike it?
I don't particularly, but I do like having a nice photograph of myself. And I must admit, I don't have many actually. When you feel that you look good, you know, and you're in the right frame of mind, and your hair's about right, and you've got a bit of a suntan, you think, I look all right, you know, you look the biz. But I haven't got many of those. But I don't care having my photograph taken at all. I think I do prefer being on the taking side of the camera. But that's what I've done, you know, for a long time.
I think I know what your answer is, Diane. But what about you?
What do you think it is? Go on.
I don't think you like having your photo taken.
I don't.
No.
Why did you say that?
Well, because sometimes when you've sent me photos for social, you've gone, oh, no.
No, I don't mind getting it taken, but I don't like some of the outcomes. That's different. That's
there
different
you go.
thing.
That's very true. That's very true.
It doesn't bother me getting it taken. I'm not bothered, and I'm not like, oh, take another to get it right. But then when I look back, I think, oh, I could have looked better than that one. Like, so, you know.
So half the problem is people are taking bad photos, right? That is the problem. I was going to ask you, Adrian, when you go and take industrial photos, clearly, I mean, you're looking at the space, you're looking at the lighting, you're looking at the room, etc.
Yeah.
But people do like looking at photos that have got people in, because we like looking at people. Yeah. And quite a few of those photos that you've got there, well, in fact, all of them have you?
Yeah, all those behind me, all of them except one have got people in.
I've got people in.
Yeah, and they're all working pictures. So sorry.
Are people the hard bit in the job though?
No, I wouldn't think so. But one of the things I do have to do is when I set a shot up, you know, you look at your subject and you think, well, where's my person going to be? Which side am I going to shoot it from? Then you start to light it. And then the person that you put in might well be the regular operator. You know, let's say they're working in a lab or on a machine or something like that. But what I generally do is have them stand differently, or if they're sitting down, position their chair at a different angle. Because I never want to be looking at somebody from the back of their head. You know, you might turn the chair at a completely different angle, so I get the side of the face, a profile. The last thing I want is to look at the back of somebody's head, because that doesn't tell me anything at all.
No.
So generally, it's a case of put somebody in position, and often I will actually show them how to stand. You know, if you want them leaning over something, well, you know, you alter your feet so that you can actually lean over a little bit. You might not do that in your usual practice of that role. But for the photograph, it's necessary. Often when I put somebody in a photograph, even if they're sitting in front of a computer, they'll say, oh, this doesn't feel right. But when I'm looking at them with it through the camera and then later at the image, they do look right.
Yeah.
And that's my job, is to get them looking natural.
Have you ever been asked to take a photograph of something that you've just felt that isn't going to work as a photograph?
Yes, probably lots of times. I photographed a few unusual things. In my days as a staff photographer with Aramco in Saudi Arabia, I mean, we worked for the entire company there. We had a photo lab which covered the whole country, really, whatever the activities were, and that included medical. And one day a requisition came in which was one of these 11th hour things, because it had only just happened. But a baby had been born, and there was and they'd got the placenta in a bucket, one of these medical buckets. And there was something very unusual about the placenta, and they wanted it photographing, obviously for teaching purposes. And if you remember, if I remember rightly, the vein in it was almost like a hairpin. So because it was like a hairpin, maybe if the mother had leaned or bent a certain way, it could literally have cut the flow of the blood off. I mean, I remember this because the chap who I went to meet, he pointed it out to me, and he got the thing out of the bucket and put it on one of those green cloths. Looks really rather gruesome, but there was science behind this, and with science, it's used for teaching. But that's one that sticks in my mind as just being rather unusual.
Not very industrial either, is it? How come you can't?
Not very industrial, but
got roped into that.
It's an unusual subject, and it requires lighting.
Yeah.
Not everything I do is in factories. I mean, I have done 2 or 3 prospectuses for schools. It's not the work that I go looking for, but it's still people. Okay, they're younger people, but they're still younger people in working situations. Their working situation is a classroom or a science lab, and I've still got to handle them in the role, so that when you put the picture together, they're doing what they need to do. But they make persuasive, attractive pictures.
Yeah, we seem to have seen a lot of headshot photographers come out in the last few years. Why do you think we've seen sort of like an influx of headshot photographers? And
I see this myself on LinkedIn as well, and I don't know how you could earn a living purely being a headshot photographer, because I couldn't. I mean, I do headshots, but headshots tend to be part of something else. If I'm photographing for a company brochure, well, what do? Well, let's say they're a manufacturing company. They've got a raw material in, they've got various processes, and they've got finished products out. Let's say, for instance, it's a bakery. You've got flour and all this business coming in. You've got the creation of the dough, the baking, etc., and then you've got the finished bread going out, and you've got lots of people along the way that make that process happen. Well, they may want a photograph of people working on the line. They may want photographs of team leaders, the MD, the operations person, that kind of thing. As headshots, I will try and do them as environmental portraits, so that you use some of the machinery as a background. So immediately it tells the viewer something about that person and the role they're in. Just sticking people on plain backgrounds doesn't tell you anything about what role they're in.
No, it doesn't. I guess some people are trying to find an unusual headshot to kind of stand out, or they're kind of an unusual photograph of themselves to stand out.
Well, they may well be, and there's plenty of unusual situations in industry to put somebody. I mean, if you look at these behind me, where are we? This one here, that's actually done in a bakery, and I did that photograph for the company who handled the pest control, and we did it while the bakery was on shutdown. So they were cleaning everything. But this is one of the drainage sluices in the floor, where you get lots of stuff washed into it, and you've got this build up of stuff that looks like porridge, which is really breadcrumbs and lots of water. And it's an ideal place for bugs to lay their eggs. And that lady's actually on the floor looking for bugs in that drainage trend. But it is an environmental portrait. Now, that's far more interesting to show that lady at work than have her standing up against a wall or against a plain background, because it says something straight away about the job that she does, but also the industry that she's in. I mean, she could be in a chicken shed. It doesn't have to be a bakery.
Well, here's one for you. So Diane wants some photos for her business as a recruitment business.
Yeah.
But obviously she deals with different sectors. So she deals with hospitality, she deals with construction, etc. So how would you go about really showing off what it is that she does?
You mean if I was to take a portrait of her?
Or if you were to try and capture the essence of her business as a recruitment company that's specialised in those particular sectors.
Right. Well, I to start with, I'd say, well, if we're going to do a photograph of Diane, as in a working portrait, which the way I go about doing it is to say, who do you supply? Who do you have a good relationship? Let's take a bakery, for instance. If you're supplying people to a bakery, is that a company that you get on well with? Are they very approachable? Are they helpful? If you want to photograph yourself in those circumstances, or you think it would be a good idea, approach them and say, look, we'd like to do some business portraits. Can we come in for a couple of hours? Is there a particular time of the day or a day of the week which is well suited? Obviously, you've got to put the right attire on, you know, your overall, your hairnet and all the rest of it. But straight away, when you put the PPE on, it demonstrates that you're used to doing that. You're not just sitting behind a desk. You know, if you're Diane and you go out to different companies and different industries, you immediately have a feel for what those companies are like, which means they're not faceless to you. You know, if you're in a factory where they're bottling wine one day, and then you're in a bakery the next, and then in a hotel the next, maybe in a laundry, it gives the viewer a flavour of the types of places that you're working in and what's required to go and work in them. So we could do a portrait of you, maybe working with one of your clients in the laundry, just having a discussion or something, or inspecting something in a laundry or a bakery. That's one way of doing it. I mean, yes, we can do a nice shot of you, you know, sitting behind your desk, but that's really...
I would prefer it being like that, though, because like, we've got brochures made with the roles that we do in industrial, construction, hospitality, commercial, because I think some people visual is better, you know, and, you know, everybody learns in different ways. So by being able to have different tools in the business that you can share with people for them to understand what you do, then helps, you know what I mean? So so yeah, we've got that anyway. They're obviously not pictures of me doing all them jobs, but we do have something similar.
But we do see you. But quite often when we do see you, you have, for example, a hard hat on and a high vis, because you are actually on site somewhere with a construction client.
And I tell you what's useful here. I mean, if you're a name that's well known in a particular industry, let's take construction, for instance. You don't want to be seen as just somebody who sits behind the desk.
Yeah, exactly.
If you actually go out to site and you know what it looks like to see concrete poured, or you know what it looks like to see rebar lifted and put into place, and what metal tie-in is, and this kind of thing, and structural steel. If you know about that, you know, if we photograph you on a site, straight away it's Diane in the thick of it. And at some point, you know, you might write an article, or you might be interviewed for a particular viewpoint on a subject, and it might be used in a construction magazine. You know, here's Diane from DCT Recruitment. We had half an hour with her. Here are her views on the growing construction industry. If you're actually seen you know, in your high vis and your hard hat, and probably your safety specs as well, in the thick of it on a site, which is actually a good working portrait. That's not you sitting behind a desk. You know, you're actually there. You're in the feel of it. To me, that as a viewer and a reader, it tells me that you're far more knowledgeable about your industry than somebody who's just sitting behind a desk. So there's real value in that as well. It's not just a photograph. There's value in there.
Yeah, that's why we always make sure we go to people's establishments, because that's how you understand, one, the role correctly, and two, you feel and see the culture of the business, so then you can understand how to put the right person into the right job, you know, who will fit with that team of people, because you can see more and feel more and stuff. So I agree, like, you know, that it's important. That's why, like, our uniform is a hoodie and a t-shirt and stuff. So when we go on to site, when we go on to site, you know, we look just the same as everyone else. There's no point me rocking up in a suit and high heels, you know. One, it's not health and safety, and two, that's not what you're there to do that day, you know. So you want to, if you're like for like, then people will relate to you as well better, you know, and see that you are serious and understand what you're doing. So I totally agree with that.
I totally agree with it.
I think it has real value, that does. Straight away it demonstrates that you're familiar with those environments. And you know, if you were putting a brochure together or pages on your website for, let's say, manufacturing, engineering, construction, healthcare, anything like that, you'd obviously want some of the people that you've recruited in those roles to be featured in some kind of working situation. And, you know, I don't know how many staff you've got, but, you know, you might pick out a couple of your staff to say, well, Denise, will you go and be in the healthcare shot? You know, and you can put a white coat on and your hairnet and your plastic gloves, all this kind of thing. And you might even do it as an induction kind of situation where you're demonstrating your staff in those environments. I think you've got to, it's almost like getting on the side of the client. You know, so you have a proper understanding of who they are, what they do, and who they're projecting at. That's why when I will talk to a client and I'll go and look around a factory, it's not always factories, but let's use factory as an example. If I don't get under the skin of their business and ask the right kinds of questions, I can't possibly interpret my photographs, which will properly represent them. So to start with, it's a real fact-finding mission, and Diane's in a different way is doing the same thing, because you've got to come up with a solution that will solve their problems.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's the same reason why I and with my clients make conversational content, because it's one thing to put on a page, I understand this industry, you know, here's some facts about this industry. But if you can actually have a conversation with stakeholders from within that industry, it's a completely different thing. You know,
that's why we do this. That's why we do this as well, Graham, isn't it? For that reason, you know, it showcases that there's more behind the scenes of our business, and it helps you showcase your business. And you know, we work industrial recruitment, and you do industrial photography, so it helps, you know, everybody. So it helps everybody build their brand, you know, and that's what everything's about, isn't it? Is build a brand.
There's a big overlap, isn't there, Diane? I mean, I'm sure you're very familiar with some of the types of locations that I've worked in. You know, whether it's a bakery, whether it's at the docks, whether it's in a factory that makes radiators, a factory that makes paint. You know, they've all got workforces. You've got materials coming in, you've got processes, and then you've got finished goods going out, as well as all the drivers and the cleaners and everything.
We keep losing Diane, but hopefully, is the wonders of internet. We keep losing you, Diane, but we keep
I know.
you.
Just thinking that it keeps going on. I apologise. I don't know why, because I'm in the office with Wi-Fi. So, you know, maybe because it's getting late, everyone else is vacated, not me.
Are you on the phone, are you, Diane?
Yeah, I'm on the phone. Yeah, my computer doesn't. My computer says no. That's all we need to say.
Well, I nearly didn't manage it. I nearly didn't manage it because it says the browser doesn't work with yours. So I turned Safari off and I put Firefox on, but it still didn't want it.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, the modern world. Modern world. You see, you have to know your equipment. You have to kind of get in on these things. Final question for today, and thank you so much for your time today, Adrian. It's been wonderful meeting you.
It's good fun, actually. And I like it on a chatty basis because I perform a lot better having a chat.
Well, there you go. So the final thing that I want to ask you today and get to know from you is a photograph that you have not taken yet, or situation in industry that you haven't taken yet, which would be the dream job.
Yeah. Now I've been asked this before.
Question that for you.
Well, I'm just trying to think of one, and there is, but it's not immediately coming to mind. One of the ones that was on my list was actually doing something with tunnels.
Ooh, lovely, like a Eurotunnel type situation.
Well, yeah, but I actually. Well, I actually photographed a road tunnel that was shut down over a weekend because they were replacing all the overhead ventilation fans. So they had it from a Friday night through to a Monday morning, and I think this was in Kent. And I think we got access on a Saturday afternoon until well into the evening. But there's just something about it, you think, unusual environment, because you usually drive through these things, or you're on a bus or something. You know, you're not usually on foot in the middle of a road in a tunnel. But one of the things that I have done, which is also underground, is actually photography in the salt mines at Winsford. Now, now that's fairly safe, because you don't get gases, escaping gases. But at the time when I did that photography, one of the chaps said, I could arrange for you to go down a coal mine before they all close. And I said, ooh, I'd be up for that. So to be honest with you, yes, going down a coal mine would be pretty good.
What about maybe, the gold, like the gold tunnels, or that, the pearl hunters and all that, in Australia and stuff, like all that type of stuff? Would you not want to do something like that, get all the quartz or the gold, or?
Well, yeah, that would be great. Because that's mining, isn't it? I mean, I know some of these things are surface mining where you don't have any tunnels and you don't have any shafts.
The opal mine, and they go right underneath, don't they? So imagine like you knock something out and you got all the colours of the opal.
I'll tell you one of the most interesting places that I ever went to, because I used to do workplace assessments all around the country in different situations, and one of the I've probably been in factories many a time, like you have, on like yogurt lines and things like that. But one of the most interesting places ever was for National Rail, was in one of their control rooms, which is kind of dark and almost like a bunker type place, where you've got people looking at screens of trains running on lines. That's really fascinating. Have you ever done that?
I've done it when I was in Saudi Arabia, but it wasn't trains. It was actually ships that have come in to fill up with oil, and the ships are all at anchor in the Persian Gulf, and they're waiting their turn to be called in. So you've got this ginormous screen on the wall, which is, I don't remember how big it was now, probably 3 or 4 meters wide. Which was in coloured bands, which was probably to do with the days, actually, done as a diary. So who's sitting where, whose turn it is next, who's actually loading now. And some of these tankers, they'll take 1 million barrels. That's a hell of a big tanker, that is. So some of them can load in 24 hours, but it's in a way it's similar to what you've described. It's industrial traffic it's doing their thing. Yeah,
I think anything to do with that is quite fascinating. It's always like being at air traffic control, you know, and just seeing how close aeroplanes actually get. You may never fly again.
I haven't done work in a control tower for aircraft. I haven't done that.
There you go, one for the list.
I would certainly say yes, that would be on my list.
Fantastic.
I mean, I do have a pal who's based at Crosby actually, and he handles river traffic for the Mersey. And I've actually talked with him about, well, how about setting up some photography on the bridge of a ship with a captain, you know, show you in your working situation. No doubt I did that when I was in Saudi Arabia, but I've not done it in recent years. As long as I've got a power supply, it's great.
We'll tag some people in as this goes out, see if we can make some dreams come true. Maybe I'll tag in, because we gave them a mention, pneumatics in Chard. So maybe, you know, you might get a trip down here to see some Henry Hoovers coming off a line. And maybe I was thinking, as we were talking about aircraft as well, maybe a trip to, I think they're called Leonardo's now, what was Westland Helicopters, which is nearby where we are as well. I mean, that would be fascinating, wouldn't it? Seeing people build helicopters. What a fascinating world.
It is. Industry is great.
Industry is fascinating, and if you're you know, if you're behind the lens like Adrian is, you get to see all of that. It might be as well, if you've been watching this and of course you follow Diane and you're interested in careers, you might be thinking, well, photography sounds like something that I might be interested in. Do get in touch with Adrian. I'll ask him, how do I get started?
Do that. Questions are good. Yeah, questions are good, particularly if it's, you know, I've got an unusual process or a very dull process that I need to bring some life to. Can we have a discussion about how you might do that?
No.
And you know, my first suggestion would be, can I come and have a look? Because if I can come and have a look, I mean, I'm in the door then, you know, I can see it for real. I always find there's a lot more value out going and doing a recce. It usually needs to be, you know, relatively close rather than the other end of the country if possible. But do
you know what? I've always found that quite interesting that we use the term riveting, because as something that's quite interesting, because actually, if you've ever seen riveting happen, it's really boring. You know, but if you can make riveting interesting, Adrian, then you've cracked it. Riveting.
Well, there'll be a few rivets in the bodies of those Westland helicopters, right?
More than enough, folks. That's been another wonderful conversation. If you've enjoyed this, please do. Thank you. Please do share with other people, and we'll see you soon for another icing on the career cake. From Adrian, Diane, and myself. Bye for now.
Thank you. It's great fun.